You feel it, you know it. D Raww Productions.
Houston Sports Connoisseurs brought to you by
D Raww.
What's up, people? It's your boy D Raww coming to you with another Houston Sports Connoisseurs podcast. Today I got my co-host with me, Charles. Let him know what's up.
What's going down, people? Ain't no pretending, man. It's the real deal like that boy Holyfield.
Hey, man, don't forget to help your boy out. Get your fresh baked goodies from D3 Sweet Treats. I got what you like: cookies, brownies, pies baked by me. The link is in the description.
All the new snacks for them hit the street.
Today we're going to talk about the Houston Texans game, previous game against the Denver Broncos. Then we're going to lead forth with the upcoming game against the Jets and a whole bunch of more NFL topics, college, and more. So, looking back at this football game that the Houston Texans had against the Broncos, the Texans did prevail 22-17, but the score was, it seemed like the game was a whole lot closer than what the score would appear. It really would appear like the Texans really won by a field goal off a clutch kick when you actually look at the game and how everything kind of ran down. But also at the same time, there was times in this game where the Texans really had the opportunity to separate themselves from the Denver Broncos by a big margin.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself, but the score is, 5-point victory. You said it had the feel of a game that was won by 3 points. 5-3, I mean, it ain't that big of a difference on that. But to me, the point that you made about the Texans had several opportunities to kind of pull away from this game and make it more of a bigger win is what I walked away from the game feeling disappointed about. And yes, even though we won the game, I still walked away with a disappointing vibe, because I want to see the Texans open up and blow out people, and that just didn't happen in this game.
Yeah, in this game we had got Ward back, and then all the DBs was locked in, especially your boy Stingley, but the way they played and having Ward back and Denzel Perryman back and some of the other players on the team, I really expected us to really just separate ourselves in this game. And as you could see in the beginning of the game, Sean Payton, he went right after our DBs right away after Steven Nelson and Stingley. But from a success side on our defense, we showed that is still our strength. And even though Sean Payton, as a good coach, he tried to coach Russell Wilson into playing against our strength, but yet he failed, and he see that the strength really is true. Our DBs are really solid in cover.
It's H-Town for real.
Well, that's kind of like what we've been talking about for the last couple of episodes leading up into this one. We kind of stated in the last episode that with Ward back and with Perryman back, the defense would have, a better look, a better outing. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what they did. People laughed when I said, let's get Houston Carson out of here on a skateboard and this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, what actually sealed, or should I say, who actually sealed that victory for us? Because I literally remember saying, with Jimmy Ward back, it's gonna free up a lot of other things, and his instincts as a player we had missed for the last couple of games, and he was the man that actually went up and snagged an interception that basically sealed the game.
That he did. But you know what? Hats off to Jimmy Ward, but I don't want to really forget about what Anderson did. My boy Anderson, man, he played his ass off in that game.
Woo!
But not only did he play great, the opposite side of the D-line actually helped him out. I seen plays from John Grenard. I seen plays from Derek Barnett, a newcomer, and even Jerry Hughes got a little dirty as well. But nobody really outplayed Anderson in my book.
When you're talking about the team as a whole on the defensive side of the ball like that, it's hard for me to give out individual awards when it's a team sport, because a lot of things that happen to certain individuals on the field is a direct byproduct of what the other teammates are doing to put that person in that position by doing their job. That's what all great defensive-minded coordinators tell the defenses. Hey, man, if you just do your job, it's going to make everybody else's job easier and better. And I think that's what Will Anderson is benefiting from. Solid play from everybody ready to dig in and go out and get the job done.
Yeah, I agree. And like I had mentioned last time, I had said that if the pass rush get there on Wilson, we definitely have a chance in this game. And the D-line, the pass rush, the run stop even as well. They played good all the way around, and that's what really gave us a shot at winning this game. And as you can see, the pass rush getting home to Wilson made Jimmy Ward end up getting an interception with Wilson putting the ball in a bad spot. So kudos to the D-line in that one.
Okay, so you mentioned it. Let's go in detail about, it's a lot of intangibles, what I've been saying all season about Will Anderson, what he brings to the table. He's this heralded rookie from the glorious Alabama University. You know what I'm saying? He's one of those players. So anything he does has to be world profound in order for him to get credit, because he's just supposed to have that. But that's just not how it works. You got to put in the work. But speaking of putting in the work, if you look at what he actually did in this game, like, bro, I think I looked up. He was so all over the field in this game. I looked up one time and he actually blocked the punt. Yeah, and I didn't even know he was out on the field doing punt blocks or field goal blocks and all of that. Is he out there for all that? He's special teams too.
That's actually not his first time doing that this season. He's done that, I know, at least another time, maybe 2 other times, prior to this game. So he's always been putting his foot in the dirt and getting dirty and getting out there and getting it every play. I think a lot of people always look at how many sacks he got, versus how many pressures he has. And in this game, he did have 2 sacks. He had 2 tackles for a loss as well. All that total to 5 total tackles, and with the 4 QB hits. So, like we said, that's pressure on the quarterback. And we're not even talking about everybody else that kind of chipped in on the other side of the line and things like that to help out Will Anderson along the way. But with all that being said, those are the reasons that we won this game against the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I agree. It was a total team effort on the defensive side of the ball. But to go to the other side of the ball, that offense is still not showing me that killer instinct yet. Like, we can't stop tripping over ourselves on the offensive side of the ball. And at this point in the season, I thought we would be at a point to whereby some of those issues would have started to kind of fix themselves, but still we're not there. And then, I hate to keep mentioning this part, but I know and I see where the absence of Tank Dell is going to be a huge loss for the team.
I would say in that game, we definitely missed Schultz, but Brevin Jordan, he did show up a little bit, 3 receptions, 64 yards, but he did have that one play, bro, where we was talking about, like, man, that could have been 6 points right there. 6 points. And that's just right there, just him not having enough agility along the sideline, because there was no one there to push him. He just took himself out the game on that play, on that big reception. So that was a big letdown, but man, hats off to Nico Collins for stepping up when Tank Dell was out. 9 receptions for 191 yards. That's almost a 200-yard receiving game and plus a touchdown. You look at that, man, he was 9 for 12. 9 receptions out of 12 targets. Yeah. My boy was catching almost every pass. Now, he did drop that 1 touchdown pass, but we know Nico will improve, as we have seen from the beginning of the season until now, and I don't think there'll be an issue later down the line.
Yeah, again, shouts out to Nico, shouts out to Brevin Jordan for coming in, filling in, giving us some quality minutes in the absence of Schultz. I too agree that when he caught that one pass, talking about Brevin Jordan, when he caught it and kind of skirted down the sidelines and actually stepped out of bounds, to me, he played like a guy that shocked himself that he was that wide open on the play. And by the time he realized that, oh shoot, I can actually score right here, the left foot hit the sideline. But, you know, we want to analyze just not only the receiver, but I also want to analyze the passer. Yeah. And if we really go back and look at that game, there was this one play which all QBs in the NFL just, you know, they're licking their lips for it, to have excellent blocking up front. Mm-hmm. The play was longer than 2 or 3 seconds. He didn't have to just force the throw, but by the time he identified the open target, C.J. Stroud, people, missed a wide open John Mechie coming across the middle, which could have possibly been just a scoring play. Yeah. And the minute he threw it, he kind of like grabbed his helmet, and you know, I love that about him. He took ownership for what he did, but he overthrew him by a mile. But John Mechie, hats off to him for running a great route, was wide open, and CJ just overthrew him.
Yeah. I think that's something that they'll improve, you know, especially going into the next couple of weeks. I give Mechie and Stroud at least 2 weeks to get the chemistry right. You know, usually he's been hitting our boy Tank Dell on those deep routes, and now he has to hit Mechie and adjust to what his speed is versus Dell. But I think him and Mechie will definitely gel well together. I really hope so, because we all been waiting on this Mechie coming out party for him to really show what he got. You know, we've seen this player at Alabama who was very special, and we're hoping that it all translate into the NFL for the Houston Texans as well. With that, I also want to talk about the rushing. You know, we talked about this running attack before this game even happened, and I was like, man, yeah, about 20, 25 carries, and look up, the team rushed for 30 carries, and we got 89 yards rushing on 3 yards per attempt. But you know, we look at Devin Singletary. He had 8 carries for 36 yards, 4.5 per attempt, and we look at that. It looked like Devin Singletary should have been the man getting the more carries in this game instead of Dameon Pierce. As I said before, I just feel like Singletary is better in this system because Pierce came out there with the 15 carries and 41 yards, 2.7 per carry, but he did get that touchdown.
Yeah, we're not going to say a touchdown as a but. A touchdown is a big thing in this league. So, yeah, he scored on a handoff. But the thing I just kind of want to point out is, you know, like you said, you alluded to just a second ago, we had kind of touched on this a little bit in a previous episode. Who is our number one RB? Like, is it time to shift this from Pierce to Singletary? Mm-hmm. And if so, why? Is it the fact that Pierce is just not being patient as a runner? Is he not a good fit in the scheme? Like, what is it?
You know, I just think that Pierce is not good in this scheme. Looking at that game, Pierce did have one big run. I think he ran for like 20-some yards, and then they followed up with another carry. And once again, it just kind of showed what I have been saying about Pierce all year long, is he looks for contact. He don't really look for the open hole. He's not patient. He doesn't slow down and really find that seam where he can just really take off and burst right away. But also, you know, you look at the statistics for Pierce and Devin Singletary on the year. Singletary is actually the rushing leader with 525 yards rushing on the season. Now, we know that Pierce has played in 3 less games, but even though they still have the same amount of carries, and Singletary is more efficient. So looking at that, you know, it's a good question. Like, who is really the RB1 right here? And I'm just going to ride with Singletary because I just feel like he's more patient in the backfield. What do you think?
Well, I definitely think that the system and the scheme that the Houston Texans are running, coming out of that West Coast style offense, it does cause for a back to be a little bit patient, identify his blockers and what they're doing, and then make a burst through the hole. It's like a one-cut type of running scheme. Mm-hmm. Whereas, from what I've seen thus far out of Perriman, he's just get the ball and shoot, put your head down and shoot. And I don't think he's looking up to see where he's shooting at. He just knows that if the play is designed to go through the A gap, he's just going through the A gap, even if it's plugged up. And that's never a good thing on the NFL level. But given his production last season, and I know, we shouldn't be going that far back on this, but given his production last season, it was effective for him. So he's got to find some kind of balance between what he did last year and the things we're running this year and try to make it gel together.
Yeah, he's definitely going to have to figure it out, especially if he wants to continue to be a starting NFL running back, especially for this team, because right now, I'll be honest, it's looking like we're going to need another running back to come into this group, and that can really just do both. Do some of what Singletary's doing, but also do some of what Pierce is doing, because us having a dual back will really be scary for this team moving forward.
But against opponents. I want to point this out too, because what I said just a minute ago could be misconstrued as if all the responsibility of getting that fix falls on DP. It's not just him. It's an offensive coordinator's job to know your skill set of your players, and from what I understand, Bobby Slowick has the ability, like he's been empowered to take that offense and build and construct plays to from scratch. So I think he needs to understand what we're saying about Dameon Pierce and change up schemes and run plays that are better suited for him. He doesn't have to run plays out of the West Coast offense playbook for Dameon Pierce, because I was talking to someone else and they made a valid point. They said, being fair to Dameon Pierce, it just seems like other defenses, opposing defenses, they know when he's out on the field, this means the Texans are finna hand the ball off to him, because he only has like one reception since week 1 or 2, where he was throwing a pass. So that means you're finna hand the ball to him, and the defenses are just stacking the box up on him. Because if you actually look at the games, there are so many times when he gets the handoff, he's hit 2-3 yards back in the backfield, because they already know when he's out there, they're gonna run the ball with him. Yeah. So that's not fair to him.
I think, like I was saying, I think that also just kind of feeds into maybe they need to work with him on being a dual threat back and using him out of the backfield so teams can't, predict what they're going to do with him so much. But he already has that skill set, because if you look at what he did last year, he was catching the ball out of the backfield. That's true.
He was a dual threat running back.
That's
so if the Texans just aren't playing to his strengths, is that his fault or is that play calling?
That's play calling. But another thing I do want to mention is that we talk about the run game, but a lot of this run game also relies on a broken offensive line where we keep missing players, and one day this guy is in, next day this guy is in, and I'll be honest, like right now I think we got like a third string center in the game in Dieter, and looking at Dieter from my perspective, Dieter is not really good at run blocking or pass blocking. He's just a guy that's there. Sometimes he make a good play, a lot of times he make a bad play. And when we really need him up front to be pushing forward, that's when the run hole, clogs up and our running backs get stopped right there short, because Dieter is not making the push right from the middle of the line. So that's a big issue as well.
Yeah. And if you want to talk about the offensive line, I'm curious to know. I know how I feel about it. I feel like in the 2 games that he's played now, Juice Scruggs has come in and done a phenomenal job. I mean, absolutely phenomenal job. Now, I'm not saying that he's an all-pro or anything like that, but I'm just saying to come in and allow that spot to protect C.J. Stroud the way that he has. I mean, my hat's off to him.
Yeah, I agree. Looking at Juice Scruggs as he came out of college from Penn State, he was already a dog at that position. Well, actually, he was a center, and now they moved him to guard, to help out because Titus Howard is out. But every time I seen him from his highlights, he's always been a dog. And now that he's fully healthy, it's really nice to see him fill in and not have an issue right away. He's just plugging and going. So hopefully the offensive line get a little bit more consistent. But moving forward, I always say that good running always promotes great passing, and I think every coach would agree with that. I don't know what you think. I know you say we should pass the ball a little bit more, but
yeah, you already know how I feel on that particular subject. I think it's it could go either way. If your team's strength is you're better at passing, then that's what you come out and do. Mm-hmm. You don't try to force something that you don't have in order to have to fall back and revert to what you're already good at. The Texans need to flip their mentality. They need to come out passing because the average team that faces them is already going to think, okay, this team's going to try to run the ball. So the play action will be actually open early in the game, where you play action and throw the ball deep, put your points up. Mm-hmm. Then, as the other defense is expecting the pass, that's when you sneak in some runs and you get these big pops, just like you got from DP last week, a 22-yarder. Mm-hmm. But that's because we had started passing the ball and then we snuck in a handoff, and what did? He popped it open for 22 yards.
Right.
So if it was running game is my strength, then you start off running and then you kind of play action and sneak a pass in. But for the Texans, they need to do vice versa.
Okay. I agree. I feel you. I understand. So moving on to the Jets game, I want to acknowledge that Tank Dell is possibly most likely out for the season, and we're taking on a Jets team that is not favored at home, and the Texans got a 3.5 chance to beat them. But with Dell being out and us not having an opportunity to really just take the top off of defense now, what receiver do you really expect to stand out? I mean, out of Mechie, Brown, Woods, Hutchinson, who do you really expect to really just stick out like a sore thumb?
I don't know if any of them are going to stick out like a sore thumb, but I know all of them, like I said before, need to step up by the role of a committee to kind of fill some of the void that Tank Dell has left us with. But I really do want to say this. I don't respect the New York Jets to whereby we have to be worried or intimidated or concerned in the least bit with this game. Mm-hmm. As long as we go out and do what we do best, we should be fine.
I agree. The one thing that I would say that we have going against us in this game is that the elements is actually going to play a factor in this game. It's going to be raining. It's going to be kind of cold. A lot of times when you have elements, it means that you got to put the ball in the running back's hands a little bit more, and we're going to have to depend on that, especially going up against a Jets defense that falls in the middle of the pack. But I also believe that this Jets defense is actually a top 10 defense. It's just the fact that they have a bad quarterback at the time in Zach Wilson that's putting their defense in bad positions. And hopefully that stays the same against the Texans. Because if that's the truth, then the Texans definitely got a shot to win this game.
Well, irregardless to who they have playing at quarterback, and just to take a sidetrack to talk about their quarterback position, my heart really goes out to a guy like Zach Wilson because he was drafted number 2 pick overall. Then in the offseason, they went and acquired Aaron Rodgers, who everybody knows what happened to him. First game of the season, torn Achilles, he's out. So back in comes Zach Wilson. He plays a couple of games, and then all of a sudden they bring some unknown. Well, he wasn't. I ain't gonna say he was unknown, but he was a bum. They brought him into the fold, and he played a couple of games, and they started him over Zach Wilson, and now he's out. He's no longer even a Jet, just because he was good friends with Aaron Rodgers, and now back comes Zach Wilson. So if I'm Zach Wilson, I'm coming into this game a little bitter. I'm not coming in like I got something to prove. It's a difference. So I'm hoping we get a bitter Zach Wilson out there that we're facing. And like you said, with the elements, they're going to have to try to run the ball just like we're going to have to try to run the ball to possibly keep down turnovers. So this game right here is one of those games where I could easily see the Texans being upset because if memory serves me correctly, this will be a first for C.J. Stroud as an NFL quarterback, playing in these kind of elements away from home, on the road. And I think this will be a great a great time for him to shine. Now I know your original question was in reference to the wide receivers, but if your passer can't get the ball to the wide receivers, then you got a problem right there. So can C.J. Stroud step up when the Texans are down? Now, I don't know how down they'll be, because if you look back at the Jets' last 2 games, neither game did they score 10 points.
Right. I'll also say this. I'm not too worried about C.J. Stroud playing in the elements. He was up there in Ohio State, and up there, I mean, you dealing with rain, sleet, and snow. So I think C.J. will play fine in the elements.
Good point.
Also, I don't know if you heard, but they say Aaron Rodgers was limited practicing today. So he throwing the ball around, he moving around. It might just be some kind of coincidence that Aaron Rodgers might pop up and pop out on us. But even if he did,
let me stop you right there, because I'm finna be honest with you. This morning, when I woke up, I grabbed the football, I walked around with it, I even threw it. Does that mean I'm finna play this weekend? I don't think so. So I mean, the narrative about Aaron Rodgers, I'm tired of it, because at first they were saying, oh, he's out for the season. Then they said, oh, it's a possibility he'll return this season. And as each week goes, the rumor just keeps circulating. So, people, trust your boy on this one. Aaron Rodgers is done for the season. He's never going to play a down in a regular season game for the Jets, including this upcoming game against the Texans.
Yeah. Also, we got Breece Hall that, it's possible that he might be out with an ankle injury. Tyler Conklin, their number 1 tight end, he got a hamstring injury as well. So looking at those 2 key players, I definitely see the Texans getting a victory. Like you said, you never really know though. Zach Wilson might be licking his chops a little bit. He might be a little angry, and he might be trying to, upset us. But I still think this Texans team is good enough, sound enough to get the victory. I'm going to tell you my key factors to the game for us to get the win. And I will say the first factor is just to get the run game going, especially in the elements. Rather that's passing first, then running, like you said, or running first and then passing. I think that's going to be one of the main factors. The second factor is slow down the Jets' run game, because we all know that Zach Wilson ain't really that capable of being that dangerous. So they're going to be handing the ball out to Breece Hall or whoever else comes behind him a hell of a lot against the Texans, And then the last key of the game, the major key, is to force the ball into Zach Wilson's hands and force him to beat you.
Well, that, you just segued right into what I was about to say in rebuttal to what you just said. Mm-hmm. In order for us to beat the New York Jets, that game plan that you just laid out, to me, it plays right into the hands of the Jets. If we come out trying to run the ball, and we already know that our offense has struggled with running the ball, it just equates to one thing to me: 3 and outs, 3 and outs, 3 and outs. And the more time you give a team like that to hang around, the better of their opportunity is to kind of snatch one at the end, like we've lost some games by a field goal or less. My strategy for this game would be to come out and jump all over the New York Jets. Open up your passing attack, go down there and put up points, and that would force the ball right into Zach Wilson's hands, because now they're not going to try to run the ball so much. They're going to try to have him make plays to stay competitive, which is going to give my boy, that's right, you heard it here, Derek Stingley, an opportunity to get another pick, possibly Steven Nelson, possibly Jimmy Ward, possibly Jalen Petrie, because the ball is going to be up in the air and it's just going to be floating, because that's all he throws is floating ducks everywhere. But that only happens if we get them down early and force them to play from behind for the majority of the game.
Since you mentioned Stingley, I was just thinking, I was like,
yeah,
we finally get that Sauce Gardner versus Stingley kind of matchup, see who's going to play better on each side of the ball, man.
Okay, so now, I've been waiting patiently for this moment. People, y'all got to forgive me. I know y'all can't see me right now, but I'm like literally beaming from ear to ear.
You gonna do today, Napoleon?
Whatever I feel like I want to do. Gosh!
Have you looked at the season totals for Sauce Gardner this year versus the season totals for Derek Stingley this year?
I haven't.
As far as production.
I haven't. What they got?
So I'll give you this. In passes defended, I think they're tied at 8 apiece. But in interceptions, Derek Stingley is currently tied for number 4 in the NFL with 4 picks. Sauce Gardner, I think I hear crickets right now. I'm gonna take people. I'm sorry, I gotta take my time and say this because this is just pointing out something that I predicted well before the season. This was really actually predicted by me last year during the draft. But Sauce Gardner has laid a goose egg in the interception department. Why is that?
Well, first off, you also got to look at that Sauce Gardner was shut down last year. He was a Pro Bowler. And that right there is a reason for a quarterback not to try him. But at the same time, a lot of people didn't know what to expect from Stingley, so there's more chances.
Wait. Skirt. Timeout, coach. Timeout. 20-second timeout on the play. You mean to tell me Sauce Gardner, who was picked at what pick in the draft?
Well, he was number 2.
Sauce Gardner?
He was number 2, or was he 1? 1 or 2?
The Texans had the opportunity to pick Sauce Gardner, and they drafted who?
Oh, that's right. He was number 4. My bad. They drafted Derek Stingley.
So, if a cornerback was drafted before this guy, historically, that means that the league felt like this player was better, or at least the team that picked him was better than the other one that got picked later in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
So, to rebuttal or refute what the statement you just last made about how great Sauce Gardner was last year and defenses aren't even challenging him and this, that, and the other, they knew that coming into the season about Stingley too. Now, mind you, these numbers that I just laid out for you, Sauce Gardner played pretty much the entire season last year and all of the games this year. Derek Stingley has better numbers in half the games.
Well, looking at Sauce numbers from last year, he only had 2 interceptions, but he had 20 passes defense. This year,
what was Stingley's numbers from last year?
I got to roll back to Stingley.
We'll roll back. Roll that beautiful bean footage.
I thought you would have Stingley.
I
know
know
what
it.
I'm saying?
I know it. I don't have to pull it up. I know it.
All right.
What I'm saying is, I want to break you up from just having this diarrhea at the lips about Stingley without facts.
First off, I ain't never had no diarrhea on the lips about Stingley. You make it seem like I just talked
You got
to
my boy in the toilet bowl every time you talk.
Bro.
He trash.
I gave him his props the last couple games. What are you talking about?
Bro, we had a whole segment on the whole Denver versus Houston game, and not once people. Maybe I missed it. Maybe I was drinking coffee. Did he mention that in that game, Derek Stingley had not 1 but 2 interceptions? I don't think he mentioned that.
I didn't say that, but I said he played his ass off. I said
that's not. Man, normally whenever a player gets 2 picks in one game, that's worth a little bit more dollars.
All right, so in your point of view, anyways, well, who do you think was the starter defense? Do you think it was Stingley in this Denver game?
Well, clearly, if we go by the expert analysis on this podcast, the star of the defense was Will Anderson. But I just think at minimum there should be co-stars for last week. Like I actually went in to look to see who the league named the AFC Defensive Player of the Week, and what was surprising to me was neither one of them was picked. So that kind of had me a little sad. But I'm back.
That's not a surprise to me because the league hates Houston in everything media-wise. It's always been that way.
But I will say this. With the addition of these rookies that the Houston Texans have had, I'm not a hater, so I do kind of look at what other programs or podcasts are saying. The Houston Texans are getting a lot more dialogue.
They are, especially C.J. Stroud by far. He's getting the most dialogue. But to go back to Derek Stingley, in his first year, he played in 9 games. He had 1 interception, so that's half of what Sauce had, and Sauce played the full season. You're right about that. Stingley had 5 passes defense, but Sauce defended 20 in his first season. This year, they're both tied up at 8 passes defense. And yeah, you're correct. Stingley does have more interceptions. He has 4, and Sauce has none. But like I said, some of that can stem from quarterbacks already having an idea of what Sauce Gardner can do and knowing that he's shut down, so you're not going to try him as much as you would Stingley, who didn't play a full season last year, so it's a smaller sample size.
Sample this, okay? Get your P. Diddy on, get your Dr. Dre on, whoever it is that you get all your samples from. I need you to understand this. Trying Derek Stingley is a big mistake. Ask Sean Payton. I'm done.
Okay, so anyways, what is your prediction on the Texans and Jets game?
Well, in most of our games, I'm partial, and I'm definitely looking for the Texans to pull one out. The one thing, the waters that I will not navigate in is with this inconsistent offense. I don't dare say if it's going to be a 21-point blowout or a 10-point game or a battle of field goals. At this point, I really don't care. I just want us to win, and I think we will, in spite of the elements.
I agree. If I was to put a score in, I would say 17-14 Texans.
So, let me get this straight. Who was the last 2 opponents of the Jets? Atlanta, and who else was it?
Atlanta, let me see. Atlanta and the Dolphins. They lost to the Dolphins 34-13. And they lost to the Falcons 13-8.
Right. So who was the one before the Dolphins?
The Bills, 32-6. Lost.
6. Okay, that's the game I was thinking about. Because I was like, their last 2 games, they didn't score 10 points, but I forgot about that Dolphins game in the middle. I'm sorry, people, for putting out the misinformation, but I don't follow the Jets like that. But in their last 3 games, you got 6 points, you got 13, and you got 8. And you're talking about the Dolphins, the Falcons, and the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
Where does their defenses stack up next to the Texans? That you say they're going to put up more points on us than they put over all 3 of them?
Well, I just say, man, the Bills, we know they got a solid defense. Dolphins actually do as well. But I don't know to say that we're more electric than the Dolphins, for sure. But
we're not talking about offense, we're talking about defense. I know we are way more electric on defense than the Dolphins are. I know we are way more electric on the defensive side of the ball than the Falcons are.
The Falcons, yeah. The Dolphins, I don't know, bro. I think we pretty much tied up in some ways. Statistically, it might not be. I have to look at the statistics, but I just think that it's going to be like a 17-14 game because of the elements.
Mind you, we've had key injuries and suspensions on defense when the Dolphins and the Bills have been running full stream ahead, and they have not fallen victim to the injury bug or suspensions. Now we have an opportunity to put most of our starters back on the field against the Jets. And I'm going to tell you right now, people thought I was crazy when I said this last episode that Denzel Perryman would come back and be a huge impact player for the Texans. But who was carrying our defense earlier this season that was a surprise to everybody? Cashman. But if you go back and look at the numbers for Cashman for last week's game, what happened?
Perryman stepped up.
But I'm saying, what happened to Cashman?
He never went away.
No, he was pretty much non-existent in that game.
No, I've seen Cashman make a couple plays, bro.
I don't want to go by your play-by-play stats. Man. Let's look at the stats. Read me his stats for last week's game. People, I talk from facts.
I'm speaking from facts too.
I don't give you guys just these emotional statements.
Cashman had 6 total tackles, bro.
How many tackles for a loss?
He had none.
How many sacks?
He had none.
Okay, is that the Cashman we had grown to know and love from the first part of this season?
No, but I think a lot of that also depends on the defensive scheme since he slid over and allowed Perriman to take that position that he usually had. But also, you look at Perriman, he didn't have no tackles for a loss either.
But wait a minute. You say that as if Blake Cashman just voluntarily said, hey, Perriman, you take this spot. I'm going to be a nice guy. I
didn't say that. I said it as, from a defensive point of view as a coach, Perriman was a starting linebacker, and they slid Cashman over probably to Sam or whatever, or Will, however they identify themselves, and Perriman was back into the Mike position.
Let me tell you this.
What you talking about, Will?
This is the Mike that you need to be speaking of, or speaking to, shall I say. If you are an impact player, you're going to be an impact player no matter what system you're in. Devin Singletary came from Buffalo Bills. He was an impact player in the running back position. He's come here to the Houston Texans. Different scheme. He's an impact player in the running game, okay? Is that safe to say? Will Anderson Jr., he's an impact player in that defense, right? It's not catered to his style. Look, he's just an impact player. Derek Stingley, impact player. Jimmy Ward showed you the value of what an impact player at that position can do for that defense. You also
have to realize, as an inside backer, what your defensive tackles do in front of you really determines how well you can be stopping the run and get in the backfield. Because at the same time, as both teams are in the trenches, the defensive tackle is kind of playing like an offensive tackle on the other side and moving him out the way and filling his gap so the linebacker can go into his gap and get in the backfield to make the tackle for a loss. So it kind of plays both ways. Doesn't mean that they're not impact players, though. I've seen them make good plays.
Please forgive me, people. I had to check and make sure that I was wearing deodorant because I can't understand why this man is throwing all this stench in my direction. Check this out. Blake Cashman. Was he the same player that he is right now, playing in the same system the first 6-7 games of the season when he was making all of these different tackles, all of these different plays? Is he not the same guy?
And he's the same guy, bro.
Okay. Well, then all I'm saying is for one game. Trust me, people, I'm not bashing Cashman. I love Blake Cashman. I just want to see some more of the old Blake Cashman, meaning from the beginning of this season, this week coming up against the Jets. And that's what would help me to solidify the fact that I don't see them putting up 14 points on us.
All right. So moving on. Closing out the Texan talk. Let's get to picking them. You know, we got a gang of teams playing this week, as usual.
But can I just throw this one little thing in there before we go directly into that? It segues into the pick'ems. But as it pertains to our division, can I just say one little thing if you don't mind?
Sure.
I think everybody that's, AFC South Texans fans, one big thing did happen last week with Trevor Lawrence getting hurt. So that's why this game this week coming up against the Jets is even more important because they lost. And it looks like he won't even play in their upcoming game this week. So the Texans have an opportunity to make ground. So I'm hoping that they use that as motivation to go in and really take care of business in New York.
I agree with you, but I heard Trevor Lawrence was out there moving around just like Aaron Rodgers was too.
Yeah.
So hey, we never really know what we're gonna get, but I agree. Hopefully he sits out and the Browns take this dub, allow the Texans to catch up and tie that division for the lead. But looking at this pick'em, Cincinnati and Indianapolis play against each other, and that's going to be another big duel. And hopefully Cincinnati can prove that they're the better team in that one, so we don't have to worry about the Colts.
Well, they helped us out last week, that's for sure. So they won a game in overtime against the Jaguars. So hopefully they can continue their winning ways against Indianapolis.
Yeah. So looking at a couple good games on this week's schedule, we got Dallas and Philadelphia playing on a Sunday night. Last time Dallas came up short, and this time they're at home. And I think Dak is really hoping to really find redemption and beat Philly. What do you think?
I concur wholeheartedly. I think that that's exactly what's going to happen, especially given the fact of how Philadelphia lost last week in a blowout to San Francisco. You would think they would come in with a chip on their shoulder and say, hey, we've been the best in the league so far this year. We're going to continue to be the best and put up a very competitive game against the Cowboys. But Jalen Hurts on the road in Dallas, I mean, to me, I'm scared to pick this one.
Yeah.
I really am. So, I don't know. You say Dallas will win. I have to sit back and watch that one.
It's going to be a good one.
That's going to be a good one.
Another good one is going to be Kansas City and Buffalo. Those are two electric offenses going against each other. A lot of times we really realize that Mahomes really ain't got it like he usually do. So I'm going to take Buffalo in that one.
And I'm going to do just the opposite. Last week I rode against Kansas City. This week I'm going to ride with them. One, they're at home. And two, it's a must-win game for them.
Okay. Seattle and San Francisco go against each other. Who you got now?
Well, you know, it's like Dennis Green said, you know, they are who we think they are at this point. You know, we might as well go on and crown because the rest of the league, everybody's talking like San Francisco is the best team in the league. Mm-hmm. Like that offense is just impeccable. But I just don't think I'm going to ride against them this week. So I look for San Francisco to win.
You know what? I'm going to ride with Seattle in this one, only because it's a division rival. And this game is really important to Seattle's success as they try to push for the playoffs in that one. Vegas and Minnesota, it's another good matchup. Minnesota, you know, Josh Dobbs, he's been trying to put the team back together. Vegas, they got their new coach at the helm, and they've been putting a little win streak together. I don't know what they did last week, but this week they're at home in Vegas, and they're facing Minnesota. Who you ride with in that one?
Right now, I don't think that the Raiders have figured it out yet. And Minnesota, they're one of those teams that if you look back over their seasons, the last 3 seasons, you always look up and Minnesota is winning these games that they shouldn't be winning. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to be one of those. I think they're going to go in Vegas and sneak out with a electrifying win.
Yeah. New Orleans and Carolina. New Orleans is really, really fighting for the top of that division against Atlanta. And they're playing Carolina this week. I'm going to ride with New Orleans easily, especially since they're going to be in the Dome.
Well, who are they playing?
Carolina.
Next.
Chicago and Detroit. Chicago at home. Justin Fields is back in the swing of things, but Detroit has been a dangerous team. I'm liking Detroit in this one.
Yeah, likewise. I'm not riding against Detroit right now. They're riding a wave, and they're at the crescendo of that wave, and I like what they're doing in Detroit.
Mm-hmm. One of the best games probably this week that's really going to be important for the AFC South is Tampa and Atlanta. Atlanta is number 1 in the division right now, but if you watch Tampa, they have really been on fire. Unfortunately, they have lost, I believe, like the last 2 or 3 games. They've been very, very close, but I believe this mediocre Atlanta team is a team that Tampa can really overcome.
Okay, but explain something to me. You said that this game is very influential in what's going on in the AFC South.
I mean, NFC South.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, you know, it doesn't matter. The Texans can't get into that division spot in the playoffs.
Yeah, NFC South. My bad, people. Last matchup I want to talk about is Green Bay and New York. I'm going to skip that Tennessee-Miami game. I think Miami going to ride all over Tennessee. But Green Bay and New York might actually be pretty interesting to some extent. But I really like what Jordan Love did against Kansas City, so I'm going to ride with Green Bay in that one.
I think I was the one last week that said, you know, don't underestimate Green Bay. And I think it was Kansas City that went into Green Bay and thought that they were just going to get something just gift wrapped and handed to them and came out on the short end of the stick.
You right about that one.
I'm going to keep riding with Green Bay. I like what I saw out of their running attack, and I think that's the difference in this game between them and New York. Saquon Barkley has been a no-show all season, and what Green Bay is doing, they finally found a way to have their running game complement their passing game. And Jordan Love is really starting to come into his own, so I'm riding with Green Bay.
I agree. All right. So turning the page to college football, we really just want to talk about the 4 teams that got in the tournament and the 2 teams that got left outside the tournament. And boy, I can't wait until they open up the tournament field to field more teams, because leaving Georgia and Florida State out of the 4-team playoff is just bad to me for college football. Especially when Florida State was undefeated and they won every game this season, and yet they still got hosed at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the statement that you just made, and you named 2 teams, and you said they got left out of the 4-team college playoff. I just think that the number of teams that get allowed to compete in this playoff needs to be expanded. That's the only true way, because I can see this situation that we have right here this year being a reoccurring theme going into every succeeding college football season.
Yeah.
And it's historically been a problem. That's the reason why they actually put the playoffs in, was because some teams that they felt like was qualified to compete for the championship wasn't given the opportunity.
Right.
But I just think 4 teams is not enough. But you giving your case on why Florida State should be in the top 4. Why should Georgia be there?
I don't think that Georgia necessarily should be there, but I think Georgia is the reason that it really needed to expand, years ago. Thank God that it is expanding next season. I think it's expanded to like 8 teams or something. But even then, you still got to question, is that really enough teams still at this point, especially with all the realignments and things that's going on? But that's a whole nother episode, to really talk about that. But Georgia, man, they was undefeated all year long. They beat everybody until the championship game, and they got to Alabama and they lost this one. And then boom, they're left out of the tournament. Everything that they have been fighting for all year round. And honestly, it's almost like this Georgia-Florida State game is kind of like a national championship for them, because you had a team that was undefeated. You had a team that was undefeated all year long until they coughed up one loss, So it really sucks to beat both of them, honestly.
I be quiet, but when he leave, I be talking again.
Yeah, it really does. But, before we go any further, I just kind of like to give to some of our listeners who and hopefully everybody that's listening is well aware of the college football playoffs. But I just want to give y'all just a little bit of a backdrop or a background of what it's all about, and how it comes about. So basically, it's a college playoff series that determines the college football champion of that year. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people may not know that there is actually a committee who decides which 4 teams go in. Now, how teams are automatically put in is if they win their conference championship. That kind of gets you a straight buy-in. But there's a 13-member committee that actually decides on these rankings, the AP rankings that you hear throughout the year, and also decide which 4 teams go into this college playoff. But in looking at the names of the members of the committee that served to do this year's selection, one key name stood out to me on that list, and it was Ward Manuel, who is actually the Michigan athletic director. So, if you got your own director on the committee, none of the other schools that's been selected into this process actually have a member from their school program on the committee. And to me, when they're talking about changing this, I kind of think they also need to change the members of the committee and how, who is it that's allowed to serve as a member of the committee. Because if you tell me that this guy isn't biased in any way at all, I find that hard to believe. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to see, but what I don't want to see is it kind of turn back over to the hands where they, at one while, I think they were vying heavily on the votes from members of the media. I do not want to see that again. I don't know what they're gonna what it's gonna take for them to fix it, but share your thoughts, Mike. How do you feel about that selection committee?
I think the selection committee, like you said, them having a Michigan AD on there, that's rigged all the way to begin with. But also, one of the things that I realized that they say, one of the stipulations is that they're supposed to put the best 4 teams into the conference. Now, you can't tell me that Florida State is not one of the best 4 teams if they're in the Power 5 conference coming out of ACC and they went undefeated. But also, they say that they have to feel that one specific team that they put in or take out has the ability to play up to its full potential. And they felt that since Florida State lost its quarterback, they felt that they couldn't play to their full potential. But when I looked at Florida State, those last 2 games, and remember I had expected Louisville to beat Florida State, but their defense is so good. I don't think none of these teams would have truly been a problem for them. So just to see them go against Alabama, Texas, Michigan, or Washington with that defense would have been amazing to me. But they said it's not good for TV because what the committee wants to do is put people on TV that's going to be electric on the offensive side of the ball and, basically have players that can open up our eyes and really just make us look at a shootout going back and forth in college football versus having a stalemate from a solid defensive team.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the game last year with TCU, it just kind of had them kind of scary to pick another team like TCU, such as Florida State, to go into the playoffs because they didn't want that type of thing. Because every year they're looking for that game that's going to rival the Texas Longhorns versus USC, where you see all year long on ESPN Classic that this was the most favorite college football championship ever, the greatest one ever. They're looking for the next greatest one ever every year. And everybody knows in sports that not every game is going to be a forever classic such as that. I mean, hats off to Vince Young and Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush for all they brought to that championship game. But that's the reason why records are made, and sometimes records stand for 10, 15, 20 years, because what you're watching is not everyday normal stuff. This is once in a lifetime or once every 10, 20 years occurrence. And the committee wants that every year now. Like, you can't cookie cut that. You can't mass produce that. It's just organic. And I think that takes away from school programs such as Florida State that have gone out there in spite of all their obstacles and still position themselves to be undefeated at this time of the season and still be looking on the outside looking in. I just think that's unfair. All because they want to try to force that type of a championship game. And here's the crazy part. Out of the 4 teams that they pick, when it actually comes down to the championship game, it could actually be a dud. It could actually be a game that's played with these teams right here where people are falling asleep with popcorn all over their lap because you're not guaranteed to get this electrifying game that they think that they want, So
Right.
Why not give the teams with the best records, who have proved that time and time again throughout the course of the season that they are resilient and they find ways to win. Sometimes that is more electrifying than games of past.
Yeah. And you know what? You talk about mass producing. I think they're really trying to manufacture that Alabama-Texas rematch, because you have Alabama, which is number 4, taking on number 1 Michigan, and number 3 Texas taking on number 2 Washington. Don't know who's really going to win the game, but I'll be honest, I think Texas has too much size for Washington. I believe Alabama has too much size for Michigan. Although I think all the teams are good, that SEC style and size that they bring to those Midwestern teams is never going to be stopped by a team like Michigan, even though Michigan is a damn good team, from quarterback to kicker. But I think Alabama is going to win that game all the way. And then you got UT, who's really just been playing some good football, especially in the last, 2 or 3 games, And they're taking on a Washington team with a good quarterback, some good-sized Samoans, to be totally honest. But them corn-fed white boys, black boys for UT, I just think they're going to be too much for Washington.
You gonna eat your cornbread.
And you're going to get that mass-produced game that everybody's really licking their chops at, that's at the top of that committee that want to see Alabama and Texas rematch for one good last time before they both join each other in the SEC. And also, I just think it's about the SEC too. Them trying to mass produce and build that up for money and other things going forward.
You may have a point there. I mean, shadier things have happened, but out of these two games in the college playoffs, one thing just kind of sticks out to me. When Alabama faces Michigan, Michigan is the home team, and when Texas faces Washington, Washington is the home team.
Right.
But the Alabama-Michigan game is actually played in California, and the Texas and Washington game is actually going to be played in New Orleans. So, with that being said, does the home team really have an advantage in either one of these games?
I would definitely say no, especially Washington. They definitely don't have an advantage because Texas is just right there.
I mean, they stole papers to Louisiana.
When we look at that, that's probably going to be a burnt orange game, burnt orange dome for the most part. Now that Alabama-Michigan game, both of them teams is kind of even, so it's more or less about who's going to get there first. But that UT game, man, I think they really set that up for UT to win that game for sure.
Well, so you already sent your picks in. You said Alabama beats Michigan and Texas beats Washington. But I'm gonna tell you like this: when the announcement came out, they had a clip up on social media of some area at Michigan where there was a mass amount of Michigan fans. It was a mass, let me just call it correctly, a mass amount of Wolverines watching the results and trying to anticipate how everything was going to play out. And when the announcement came out that they were in and that they were going to play Alabama in the first round, dude, that room, it was like somebody let all the air out of that room. Like, it was like they didn't believe in their team to come away with this victory. I was so amazed by this. Like, I literally watched it like 2 or 3 different times.
Yeah.
People's body language in that room was unmistakable.
I think a lot of that comes from, if my mind serves me right, I believe that Michigan played Alabama or Georgia or somebody like that before in the SEC in a college football playoff, and it did not go well. And that's why I say Michigan, they have the size, they have the talent, but it's just something about that Alabama team, man. When they face them boys from down south, they just not ready. And they know, their coaches know, everybody knows you're going to have your hands full with a Nick Saban coach team anyways.
I mean, it's just like he's the Bill Belichick on the college level. So, I will say that Michigan has their hands full, but I do want to say this. If Michigan comes out and does not let the fact of who they are playing intimidate them, they actually have a chance to compete and win that game. But, only time will tell which Michigan team shows up.
Yeah, I can't wait to see, what happens. I think it's going to be very competitive, at least for the first quarter.
Absolutely.
But let's turn the page, man. NCAA, they have opened up with a new rule that they're trying to propose, and it's going to let schools and athletes come together and basically have NIL deals together. Basically, it's like college is turning into professional. I thought college was supposed to be for amateurs that's trying to become professional. But now schools are being allowed, or possibly being allowed, to set up NIL deals and play college athletes. But not only that, they're trying to make a big divide between FBS divisions now. They're trying to create 2 divisions. A division for the highest resource schools that have money to pay their athletes, and then a division for the schools that don't want to be included or know they can't afford to pay all their athletes. And this is not only just for football, this is for basketball, this is for women's sports and all, you know. And then they're talking about, man, about $30,000 per athlete at least. Like, bro, that's ridiculous. Like, do you know what kind of competition is really about to come out of high school now? You know, to get into that kind of division of football. And that division that I'm talking about is the Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12, the ACC. You know, those are the top divisions with the highest resource schools with the most money. And those are the things that we'll have to be talking about now. Not even including transferring players left and right all the time. Now we're talking about NIL deals and how much a school can offer each athlete, let alone.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's two sides of the fence to this, and it's a very debatable topic. Like you said, I thought it was the amateurs. Why are these people getting paid? The immediate answer that comes to mind when that question is posed is, look, yeah, these guys go out to perform well, they increase their draft potential, and they make a big payday when they go to the pros. Mm-hmm. But what's on the flip side of that? Everybody knows with the game of football, at least, how rough and rugged that sport is. You got some great athletes that their career got derailed on the collegiate level. They never lived to see a day in the NFL because they got hurt playing this game that they love. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the goal for those players is to be able to have generational wealth and take care of their families through this sport. Well, if this sport is the reason why they can no longer continue to earn a living, why not give them some type of compensation? Because we all know how much money the colleges and NCAA makes a year off of these athletes, and it's ridiculous.
Right.
You know, so I can see that as being part of the argument. But then on the other side of the fence, how do we make it fair for certain schools when we already know the big fish are going to come in and suck up all the players because they're paying them more? Mm-hmm. But I say there's only so many spots per team. They can't pay every great player, and there's so many great players from around the country that you can't pay them all at one school. So, you know, there are going to be enough players to go around, because now this is going to motivate guys that was, you know, I don't know how it was when you were in school, but for me, when I was in school, some of the best players from our area was not on our high school football team. Right. They were not on our high school basketball team. You know why? Because they were in their own little division called the Cool Kids Club, and they skipped classes and smoked joints and drank alcohol and never even touched the court. But if you go out and play them on the playground after hours or after school hours, they were dunking on the dudes that was on the school team. Some of the best players never touched the court or the field. Mm-hmm. But I think now that there's going to be financial gain in their sights earlier on versus to making it all the way to the pros, you're going to start seeing a lot more of those players come into the fold too. They'll get their mind right and start making better decisions and say, hey, I'm going to go out here and actually play. Yeah. And so some of these other schools could benefit from that. But I was looking at it, and they're talking about it's a 3 name or word process that they're talking about playing this, because like, what is it, name, image, and likeness or something like that?
Yeah, name, image, and likeness.
That's the kind of deals that they're going to give these kids. Like, how does that work?
I think, well, you know, name, image, and likeness has been a big factor in the past, especially when it comes to like video games and stuff. Those athletes that have always been at the top. When you talk about Reggie Bush, Johnny Manziel, they were always using their name, image, and likeness to make so much money off of those kind of players. But those players never benefited, and they'll get punished when they'll make the little pennies that they could get, you know, on the side. But I think the good thing about this NIL thing is that it now basically frees up the ability for players to go make money off themselves. The things that all the schools were getting punished for and suspended for years, for paying these players under the table. Now it's legal. It's actually just legal for me to go ahead and buy his mama a car. You want to go get your mama a new house? How many rooms it need? Yeah, here go the money. You go ahead and do it, And those are the kind of things that's really going to allow players to decide what school they want to go to again, But with ease, it's not thrown under the rug or anything like that. We're not getting punished for it anymore. But also another thing that I also realized in this that they mentioned is it's going to make gender equality throughout sports, not only for men and women. Not only is men benefiting, but women are benefiting as well. And a lot of times, especially for women, when they get to the pros and things like that, they're highly underpaid. So at least on the college level, they're getting something of equal or better. And I really like that for it. But man, the name, image, and likeness is the biggest thing that's going to come out of this. The players are really going to be able to benefit from it because, like, every year we got a college player that we see on TV all the time that people just love, and they sell their jerseys. They attach them to all kind of commercials and things. Rather, it's that Heisman commercial, whatever the case may be. Now they can really benefit and they can feed their family because there's a lot of these players, man, out here that already have kids and stuff like that. They are already struggling coming out of high school, so now they can immediately help out at home, and that will make a difference right away for them. But at the same time, I just feel like since college is supposed to be an amateur sport, I feel like it's going to kind of hurt the players in some ways because they're going to be so focused on the money part of things and not really worried about their education anymore. And then moving up to the pros where they know they're still going to make their money. And me as a person, I just feel like the money's going to come either way, And I feel like college now is too focused on allowing the players to magnify the money versus their education.
Yeah. And, just to kind of comment on that last part that you just said, I'm going to lower my tone. I'm going to kind of get in here and I'm going to kind of whisper this because I don't want the word to get out. But to be honest with you, I look back over college sports for the last at least 10 or 15, 20, maybe even more than that. And people, can you hear me? Are you listening? Most of the top athletes in the sports, with the exception of maybe an Andrew Luck, they didn't care about an education. Okay? So that part of it has always been in existence. It's not just going to come into existence because of this new proposed change that Mr. Charlie Baker has put on the table, who is the NCAA president. But what I'm interested, the part that I am really interested in seeing is how this bidding war now takes place. Now that the athletes can now strike direct deals with those colleges for their name, image, and likeness. Mm-hmm. And then there's a second part of the proposal for the other schools where the colleges themselves will actually be setting millions of dollars to the side that will go into this huge trust fund. Mm-hmm. So to disperse amongst the athletes. Like, I'd like to see the breakdown of that, but that's still a little time away. He just put the proposal out there. It's up for the schools to take it and decide on if they're going to roll with it or not. But one of the new rules that he did specifically mention was it would create a new subdivision of Division I schools that would be allowed to create its own set of rules for recruiting, transfers, roster size, and a wide range of other policies. See, there's that gray area right there that I'm a little scared of. So if you got a subdivision of Division I schools, like, how does that work? Like, I need a more breakdown than just a high-level overview in order for me to say yay or nay to this. But I guess more details are to come. That's a pay grade bigger than mine at this point, so I'm gonna just leave that out there like that. But those are the facts, people. Shoot us your thoughts. Let us know what you think about this new proposed payout program for the college athletes. one, do the college athletes need to be making this money? And two, if they do, how do we keep it fair?
Yeah, and also give us your thoughts on how it may affect the transfer portal, because that is really going to play a key factor into what this new NIL deal is all about as well.
People, I know this episode was supposed to be focused primarily on the Texans, the NFL, the college, and stuff like that. But I got one other thing I can't help but mention, because today is Thursday, and we're coming up on this big event this weekend, and I don't know if we'll be able to get another episode out before then. But there's been a huge buzz going around in the boxing world pertaining to this Devin Haney versus Prograis fight. And I just want to throw to my co-host just really, really quick before we skate out of here. Share your thoughts on that fight.
You know what? I haven't really looked at the opponent against Devin Haney, but looking at Devin Haney, I've seen him box, and his last fight, man, I think it was against Lomachenko or somebody like that.
Lomachenko was silly.
You know, yeah, it was silly. But I'll tell you this: I like what Devin Haney brings to the boxing world versus what I've seen out of Shakur Stevenson most recently. I do see Devin Haney somehow finding a way to prevail in this fight, just based off, you know, I don't even know who the hell the dude is, to be honest.
Wow.
But I know Devin Haney is a pretty solid boxer. He's good with his defense, but he also brings a lot of power in his hands. And that right there, me knowing that he can go the distance in a fight and take some hits from looking at the Lomachenko fight. You know, Lomachenko's a pretty damn good boxer himself, and Devin Haney took him on. And that's the one thing I can give Haney. He really hasn't ducked anybody as far as that I know. So I like his chances against this boxer. What do you say his name is again?
Regis Prograis.
Yeah, Regis Prograis is going down. That's all I got to say about that.
Okay, so just so you know, Regis Prograis is a 34-year-old WBC super lightweight champion. Now, how we don't know what this guy is, that just has me just blown away. But the one key thing that I wanted to say about this, and I really want people to kind of chime in on this. Like I said, Regis Prograis is 34 years old. Devin Haney is 24 years old. And that's my one problem that I personally have with the sport of boxing. Like, to me, a 24-year-old fighting a 34-year-old, the advantage should kind of be to the 34-year-old.
Should be.
Because of age and life experiences. Not necessarily just boxing experiences, but life experiences. And I'm just a little leery as a parent, and the reason why I say that is because if you know Devin Haney, you know his father is a huge part of his career, his training, his everything. As a parent, I would be a little leery about putting my 24-year-old son in the ring with a 34-year-old grown man who is a WBC champion. And yes, at 24, Devin Haney is a grown man as well. He's an adult at 24.
I was about to say, he passed 21, right?
Yeah, but I mean, you know, that to me, it's still, I don't know. But let me just say this. Devin Haney, for 24 years old, he does have a unique skill set when it comes to boxing. And so far, he's been able to hold his own. But I do know that this fight is a huge challenge for him, a step up. Because he's coming up in weight to make this fight. And he's abandoned his belts where he's been, he was the undisputed champion in another weight class. And he's stepping up to go and take this fight against Regis Prograis, which is why I felt like it was necessary for us to talk about this on this episode, because it's coming up into the weekend. And there are a lot of people that feel like Devin Haney is going to win the fight, but at the same time, I think people don't spend enough time looking at those little small X factors that say, if he loses, it wouldn't come as such a shock to me because of what all he is trying to overcome just to take this fight.
Yeah. It's actually interesting. So did you pick one of the fighters yet?
I have not made a pick yet.
Now, it's honestly interesting that Prograis actually started boxing in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
he lives in Houston currently.
So I think that's interesting right there. But I see two things that stick out to me after looking up Prograis and Devin Haney's fight. And the one thing that I do see is that Prograis has an 82.8% knockout rate against his opponents.
Yeah, he's had like 29 fights or something like that, and he's knocked out 24 of them.
And Devin Haney is only yielding a 50% KO rate. So, I mean, if this fight is going to be won by Devin Haney, I think it's going to go the distance, and it's going to be something that's going to be determined by the judges. I don't see no knockout in this fight if Devin Haney's winning. Mm-hmm. But if Prograis winning, I think Haney's going down by TKO or something of the sort. But like I said, I like Devin Haney in this fight. Younger guy. He's not as mastered probably, as far as being a boxer over the years. You look at Regis Prograis, like you said, he's more fined and chiseled over time, as a boxer. And he'll know a couple in and outs better than Devin Haney. Mm-hmm. But hey man, it's gonna be a good fight. I have to make sure that I keep my TV on for this one.
Yeah, and that's why I actually wanted to mention this fight because to be honest with you, the vibe I get from this fight, like the last fight Haney had against Lomachenko, the build-up just wasn't there for me, and I watched the fight and it was whatever. Mm-hmm. The last big fight before that, or after that, Shakur Stevenson, whatever. But if you've watched any of the press conferences with these fights, right, this fight right here surrounding this, it doesn't feel like it's forced, like they've been trying to shovel these fights down our throats where the boxers get up there and they do this little old fake, I'm mad at you, I'm gonna do this to you, I'm gonna do this to you type thing. It's not scripted. This stuff is organic between these two people, and it even spills down into the trainers. And like I said, Devin Haney, his father is his trainer, and the trainer for Prograis. They've gotten into it. All this stuff is noted on YouTube, and they've not only done it at the press conferences, but their videos of them out and about in other places, and these people are really getting at it, and both sides are proclaiming a knockout in this fight. And they're both asking each other the same thing. Is your boy going to get in the ring and run, or is your boy going to get in there and fight? Because if you come in there and fight, I'm going to knock him out. And then the other side is actually saying that back to the first side. Yeah. So to me, this is going to be must-watch TV. So tune in. Make sure you don't miss it. And hopefully we'll be able to put up an episode shortly thereafter that. And then we can just kind of see where the dust settles on this thing. But just so I can get out of here and y'all say, he weaseled out without giving a pick, I'm actually rolling with the old school in this one. I'm rolling with Prograis, people.
All right, I like it. Well, we're going to see what the two Americans do since, they got to exchange blows. This fight going to be happening in San Francisco or the city of the Bay. So things should be interesting. I'm going to ride with Haney in the distance, and we're going to see what's going to happen. But thank you, people, for listening to another episode of the Houston Sports Connoisseurs. Don't forget to like, listen, and learn how to become a connoisseur, just like your boy D Raww and my boy Charles here.
What? I finally became a connoisseur. Get out of here. Do I get a sicko?
Hey, don't forget to share, people. Don't forget to share. We need to share all the time. Oh, and we love coffee. Don't forget to donate a coffee or two. We can always use that, and that can really go far. You never know. When you donate a coffee, you might win something.
And also, people, just by donating some coffee, I just got to put this out here as well. Every cup of coffee that you donate, is one less fly flying around one of those little babies in Africa. Thank you so much.
Feel that. Can you feel what's about to happen on this field, man?
Turn your click up, dog. Turn them up. Turn your bitch up, dog. Turn around.